The moment King Charles draws his final breath, the monarchy will not pause. There will be no silence behind palace walls, no time to grieve, no space to hesitate. Because in the British royal family, power does not wait. It moves. Titles shift, doors open, and others close forever. And a system older than any living memory begins to rearrange itself with cold, mechanical precision. But for one woman, this will not be a transition. It will be a reckoning. Because the second Prince William becomes king, Camilla does not rise with the crown. She begins to lose everything. Not gradually, not quietly, but piece by piece, privilege by privilege, identity by identity, until the life she spent over 3 decades building starts to disappear right in front of her. You've seen her transformation, from the most controversial woman in Britain to Queen Consort of the United Kingdom, a title polished by time, a reputation slowly repaired, a place inside the royal family that once seemed impossible. But here's the truth Buckingham Palace will never say out loud. None of it was ever truly hers. Not the crown, not the power, not even the life she now lives. Because every single privilege Camilla holds today is tied to one man. And the moment that man is gone, so is everything else. Today, we're pulling back the velvet curtain on the 15 brutal things Camilla will lose the moment William becomes king. From her royal title, to the homes she calls her own, to the powerful inner circle that surrounds her every day. And the final loss, the one Diana predicted decades ago, may be the most devastating of all. Because this isn't just about protocol. It's not just about tradition. It's about something far more personal. A son, a memory, and a quiet, calculated restoration of a past that was never forgotten. So stay with us, because by the end of this, you may never see the royal family the same way again. To understand why Camilla's world could change so dramatically, you have to understand one simple truth about the monarchy. In the House of Windsor, nothing belongs to you. Everything is borrowed. Every title, every palace, every privilege is tied to the reigning monarch. And when that monarch changes, so does everything else. Right now, Camilla is addressed as Her Majesty the Queen Consort. It sounds permanent, doesn't it? Powerful, untouchable. But in reality, it is one of the most temporary positions in the entire royal system. Because the title Queen Consort does not belong to Camilla. It belongs to the king's wife. And the moment King Charles is no longer alive, that identity disappears. Not symbolically, not gradually, instantly. And this is where everything begins to unravel. Red triangle pointed down, loss 1. Her title, the crown she never truly owned. The first thing Camilla will lose is the very title that redefined her image. Queen. For years, that word has reshaped how the public sees her. It softened the controversy. It quieted the criticism. It gave her a level of legitimacy that once seemed impossible. But what most people don't realize is that the word queen, in her case, was never permanent. It was conditional, dependent, and entirely tied to the life of King Charles. The moment William takes the throne, Camilla's title changes overnight. She becomes something very different. The Queen Dowager. Now, to the outside world, that might still sound prestigious. It still carries the word queen. It still sounds royal. But inside palace walls, it means something else entirely. It means the past. It means the previous reign. It means a woman who once stood beside power, but no longer belongs at the center of it. And here's where the reality becomes even colder. Camilla can never become the Queen Mother. That position, one of the most powerful roles a royal widow can hold, is reserved for only one type of woman, the biological mother of the reigning king. Camilla is not William's mother. She is his stepmother. And in the rigid structure of royal hierarchy, that difference changes everything. The Queen Mother is protected, respected, maintained as a central figure in royal life. But a Queen Dowager? She exists on the sidelines. No constitutional role, no guaranteed influence, no automatic authority, just a title that acknowledges what once was. And this is where history begins to echo. Because decades ago, Princess Diana warned the world that there were 3 people in her marriage. What she couldn't have known was that years later, the balance of power would shift, and the boy who once watched everything unfold would become the man holding absolute control. William doesn't just inherit the throne, he inherits the system, and that system gives him something incredibly powerful: the ability to decide who remains at the center and who quietly fades into the background. For Camilla, losing her title isn't just about a change in name. It's about losing relevance, losing identity, losing the very position that justified her place in the royal story. Because once the word consort disappears, so does the shield that came with it. And without that shield, she is no longer the partner of the monarch. She is simply the widow of a previous king, a figure of the past, in a system that is always moving forward. But if losing her title is the first crack in the foundation, what comes next is far more personal. Because the next thing Camilla is about to lose is not just symbolic, it's physical. It's the very places she calls home. And in the royal family, even your home is never truly yours. Lost too. Her homes, the illusion of ownership. If losing her title strips Camilla of identity, then losing her homes strips her of stability. Because in the royal family, home is not where you choose to live. It's where the monarch allows you to stay. For years, Camilla has moved through some of the most iconic residences in Britain. Clarence House, Highgrove, private estates that feel permanent, personal, untouchable. But here's the reality few people understand. Camilla does not own them. Not a single brick. Every residence she lives in is tied either to the Crown Estate or to the Duchy of Cornwall. And the moment William becomes king, he becomes the ultimate decision-maker over both. Which means something quietly devastating begins to unfold. Camilla is no longer the lady of the house. She becomes a guest. Let's start with Clarence House. For over 2 decades, it has been her London sanctuary. A place she decorated. A place she controlled. A place that felt like hers. But Clarence House isn't hers. It is traditionally the residence of the heir to the throne. The moment William becomes king, that status changes. The house is reassigned, repurposed, reclaimed, or prepared for the next generation. And Camilla? She's expected to leave. Not with drama, not with headlines, but quietly, efficiently, like a system resetting itself. Then there's Highgrove, a place layered with history and tension. This was once the home of Charles and Diana, a place where memories were made, and where fractures quietly formed. And now, the power dynamic flips completely, because Highgrove belongs to the Duchy of Cornwall. And when William becomes king, he becomes Camilla's landlord. Think about that for a moment. The same boy who watched his mother struggle within those walls now controls whether Camilla even sets foot there. Insiders have long suggested that William envisions a different future for Highgrove. Less private residence, more public legacy, which means Camilla's presence there may no longer fit the narrative. And when the narrative changes, so does access. But it doesn't stop there. Because it's not just about the buildings. It's about what comes with them. The staff, the chefs, the housekeepers, the aides who anticipate her needs before she even speaks. All of them operate under the authority of the monarch. And when that authority changes, their loyalty follows. Which means Camilla doesn't just lose her homes. She loses the world built inside them. Rooms once filled with movement become quiet. Spaces once controlled by her routine, now governed by someone else's decisions. And in a system that values hierarchy above all, there is no confusion about where she now stands. Not at the center, not even close. But if losing her homes removes her sense of place, what comes next removes something even more visible, something the world has watched her wear. Because in the royal family, power doesn't just sit on a throne. Sometimes, it shines. Red triangle pointed down lost 3. The crown jewels, borrowed power, returned. For years, the world has watched Camilla step into royal events adorned in history. Diamonds that have passed through generations. Tiaras that carry the weight of legacy. Jewels that don't just sparkle. They symbolize authority. But here's the truth hidden beneath all that brilliance. None of it belongs to her. The royal jewelry collection is not personal property. It is controlled by the monarch. And when William becomes king, every piece Camilla has worn under Charles falls under his authority, which means something subtle but powerful happens. Access is revoked, not announced, not dramatized, just quietly enforced. Take the iconic lover's knot tiara, a piece forever linked to Princess Diana. Elegant, recognizable, emotional. Every time Camilla wears it, it doesn't just complete an outfit. It reopens a memory. And William knows that. Because for him, those jewels are not decorative. They are personal. Symbols of his mother. Fragments of a past that never left him. So when he becomes king, the decision becomes simple. Reclaim, reassign, or retire. And suddenly, pieces Camilla once wore with ease are no longer available. They return to the vault, or move to Catherine. And with each piece removed, something else disappears with it. The visual language of power. Because in the royal family, what you wear tells the world who you are. And when the jewels are gone, so is the illusion. Camilla is left with what she truly owns. Private pieces, personal gifts, but not the historic weight that once elevated her presence. No crown, no tiara, no borrowed legacy, just reality. And for someone who spent decades stepping into a role, that shift is impossible to ignore. But if losing the jewels removes her image, what comes next removes her influence. Because power isn't just about what you wear. It's about who stands behind you. And that support system is about to disappear. Red triangle pointed down, loss 4. Her inner circle, the collapse of her support system. Right now, Camilla is never alone. She has her queen's companions, her private secretaries, her press team, a carefully structured inner circle designed to protect, assist, and elevate her every move. But all of that exists because she is Queen Consort. And that distinction matters. Because the moment William becomes king, those roles are reassigned, not out of cruelty, but out of protocol. Her private office, absorbed into the main palace system. Her aides, reallocated to serve the reigning king and queen. Her voice within the institution, reduced significantly. And what replaces it is silence. No daily briefings tailored to her. No dedicated team shaping her public image. No structured influence within the royal machine. For the first time in decades, Camilla becomes peripheral, not central. And in a system where access equals power, that changes everything. Because without a team, without a voice, without institutional backing, influence doesn't just weaken, it disappears. But even that is not the most severe cut. Because what comes next is not about image, not about comfort, not even about status. It's about protection. Red triangle pointed down, loss 5. Security. The moment protection becomes optional. In the royal family, security is more than safety. It's status. 24/7 protection. Armed officers. Controlled movement. It signals importance, priority, relevance. But under a new reign, those priorities shift. We've seen it before. When individuals step away from central roles, their security is reduced, reevaluated, sometimes removed entirely. And for Camilla, that same process becomes unavoidable. Because as Queen Consort, her protection is guaranteed. As Queen Dowager, it becomes discretionary, dependent, subject to the decision of one man, the king, William. And William has already made one thing clear. He believes in a slimmed-down monarchy, fewer working royals, less public spending, more controlled structure, which means difficult decisions become necessary. And Camilla may find herself facing one of the most jarring transitions of all. From constant protection to limited coverage, from controlled movement to cautious independence, and beyond the logistics. There's a message embedded in that shift, a quiet but undeniable signal. You are no longer at the center. You are no longer essential. And in a world where visibility equals power, that realization cuts deeper than anything else. But if losing security exposes vulnerability, what comes next isolates completely. Because the next thing Camilla is about to lose is not physical, it's social, it's global. And once it's gone, there is no way back. Loss 6. Her influence, power without a platform. Power in the royal family isn't just about titles. It's about access. Access to decision-making. Access to conversations. Access to the invisible rooms where influence is quietly exercised. Right now, Camilla operates within that space. She meets world leaders. She sits beside the king during critical moments. She represents the monarchy on an international stage. But the moment William becomes king, that access disappears. Because a queen dowager does not represent the crown. She does not speak on behalf of the monarchy. She does not sit at the center of diplomatic strategy. She does not shape the direction of the institution. Instead, she observes it from the outside. And in her place, a new figure steps forward. Catherine, the new queen, younger, widely admired, seen by the public as the natural continuation of Diana's legacy. And in a system that thrives on symbolism, that transition is seamless, effortless, almost inevitable, which means Camilla doesn't just lose influence. She is replaced, quietly, completely. And once that happens, there is no pathway back. Because in the monarchy, there is no such thing as returning to power, only stepping away from it. Red triangle pointed down, lost 7. Global relevance. When invitations stop coming, there's a moment that defines the shift from power to irrelevance. It doesn't happen with an announcement. It doesn't make headlines. It happens quietly, gradually, and then all at once. The invitations stop. Right now, Camilla is part of the global elite. State banquets, diplomatic tours, high-level events attended by presidents, prime ministers, and royalty from across the world. Her presence is expected, requested, structured into the fabric of international relations. But under King William, that changes. Because those invitations are not for Camilla. They are for the Queen. And the Queen will no longer be her. It will be Catherine. And Catherine will take that space fully. Every spotlight, every front row seat, every carefully orchestrated appearance. And for Camilla, the phone goes quiet. The schedule clears. The invitations simply stop arriving. No confrontation, no explanation, just absence. And in a world built on visibility, absence is everything. Because when people stop seeing you, they slowly stop remembering you. Red triangle pointed down, loss 8. Media presence, from headlines to footnotes. For decades, Camilla has lived under the microscope. Every move documented, every appearance analyzed, every moment turned into a headline. At first, it was scrutiny, then controversy, and eventually, acceptance. She became part of the narrative, a central figure in one of the most followed families in the world. But the media doesn't follow individuals. It follows relevance. And when relevance shifts, coverage follows. Under William's reign, the focus becomes clear. The new king, the new queen, the future of the monarchy. And Camilla? She becomes the past, no longer leading stories, but appearing occasionally in the background. No longer shaping headlines, but mentioned in passing. A name that once dominated coverage, gradually reduced to a historical reference. And for someone who spent decades rebuilding her public image, that kind of fading is one of the hardest losses to face. Because it doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly, until one day, you realize the world has moved on. Red triangle pointed down, lost 9. Her public role, the end of official duty. Being Queen Consort isn't just a title. It's a job, a demanding one. Charity patronages, public engagements, national representation. Camilla has spent years building her role within that structure, supporting causes, attending events, positioning herself as a working royal. But that role ends with Charles, because a queen dowager has no official duties, no required appearances, no structured responsibilities, no defined place within the working monarchy. And while that may sound like freedom, it's not, because in the royal family, purpose is tied to function. And once that function is removed, so is the sense of belonging. Her patronages, reviewed, reassigned, transferred to other royals. Her calendar, cleared. Her presence, no longer required. And in its place, silence. A life once dictated by public duty becomes undefined, unstructured, detached. And for someone who fought so hard to earn her place, that shift is impossible to ignore. Red triangle pointed down, lost 10. Her daily life, from structure to stillness. This is where everything becomes real. Because beyond the titles, beyond the jewels, beyond the public image, there is everyday life. And Camilla's everyday life is about to change completely. Right now, her days are structured, scheduled down to the minute. Meetings, appearances, conversations, movement, a constant rhythm that reinforces her importance. But when that structure disappears, what replaces it is stillness. Mornings without briefings, days without engagements, evenings without preparation for the next event. Time stretches, silence expands, and for the first time in decades, there is nothing she has to do, nowhere she has to be, no role she has to perform. And while that may sound peaceful, it isn't. Because when a life has been built around purpose, losing that purpose creates a void. And that void is where reality settles in. Not suddenly, but slowly, until it becomes impossible to ignore. But even after losing influence, visibility, structure, and daily purpose, there are still deeper losses ahead. More personal, more symbolic, more permanent. Because what William is about to take next is not just part of her present, it's part of how she will be remembered. Loss 11. Her legacy, rewritten by a new reign. In the royal family, how you are remembered matters just as much as how you lived. Legacy isn't accidental. It is shaped, curated, and ultimately controlled by the reigning monarch. Right now, Camilla's story has been carefully rebuilt. From controversy, to acceptance, to Queen Consort. A transformation that took decades. But when William becomes king, that narrative is no longer hers to influence. Because history will now be told through a different lens. William's lens. And that lens is deeply personal. It is shaped by memory, by loyalty, by a past that never truly faded. Which means something subtle, but powerful begins to happen. The spotlight shifts, away from Camilla's rise, and back toward Diana's story. Not aggressively, not publicly, but strategically, carefully. Diana's legacy becomes central again. Her image elevated. Her influence reinforced through William and Catherine. And Camilla? She becomes a transitional figure. A bridge between two eras. Not the defining chapter, just the space in between. And in a system where legacy defines importance, that repositioning changes everything. Red triangle pointed down, lost 12. Her place in the family, distance without conflict. The royal family is often seen as a unit, a tightly connected structure. But in reality, it operates on layers of proximity. Those closest to the throne hold the most relevance. Those further away slowly drift outward. Right now, Camilla exists within the inner circle. By marriage, by position, by proximity to the king. But when William ascends, that proximity changes. Not through confrontation, not through rejection, but through distance. Because the center of the family shifts. To William, to Catherine, to their children. And Camilla moves outward. She is no longer part of the core dynamic. No longer present in key decisions. No longer central in family representation. Interactions become occasional, measured, formal. And while everything may remain polite on the surface, the shift is undeniable. Because in a system built on hierarchy, closeness is everything. And once that closeness is gone, it doesn't return. Red triangle pointed down, lost 13. Public sympathy. The narrative she could never fully control. For years, public opinion around Camilla has evolved. From resistance, to gradual acceptance, to cautious respect. A slow rebuilding of image. But public sympathy is fragile. It doesn't belong to the individual. It belongs to the story people choose to believe. And under William's reign, that story becomes clearer, more focused, more emotionally anchored. Because Diana's memory will not fade. It will strengthen. Through William's leadership, through Catherine's presence, through the public's emotional connection to a past that still resonates. And in that story, Camilla occupies a complicated space, not entirely rejected, but never fully embraced. And as time moves forward, that emotional imbalance becomes more visible. Because the public doesn't just follow royalty, they connect to it. And Diana remains the emotional center of that connection, which means Camilla will always exist on the edge of it. Red triangle pointed down, lost 14. Her identity, when the role disappears. For over 30 years, Camilla's identity has been tied to one journey. From outsider to insider. From controversy to acceptance. From private individual to queen. But what happens when that role disappears? When the title is gone, the structure removed, the purpose undefined, what remains? Because beyond the palace walls, beyond the public appearances, beyond the carefully constructed image, there is a person, and for the first time in decades, that person exists without a defined role. No longer Queen Consort, no longer central to the monarchy, no longer positioned within the system she adapted her life to fit. Just Camilla. And that transition is one of the most difficult of all, because losing power is one thing, but losing identity is something else entirely. Red triangle pointed down, lost 15. The one thing Diana never lost, the heart of the future king. In the end, this was never just about titles, or homes, or jewels, or influence. It was about something far deeper, something no system can assign, or remove, the heart of a son. Because decades ago, Princess Diana said something that stayed with the world. She didn't want to be queen of the country. She wanted to be queen of people's hearts. And in that, she succeeded. Completely. Unquestionably. Because even now, years after her passing, her presence remains. Not in titles, not in protocol, but in memory, in emotion, in the way her story continues to shape the future. And that future is now in the hands of her son, King William, a man who carries not just the crown, but the legacy of the woman who raised him, which means something powerful becomes inevitable. Not revenge in the way people expect, not loud, not aggressive, not public, but quiet, measured, unavoidable, a restoration of what mattered most to him. And in that process, Camilla loses the one thing she could never claim, a place in that memory, a place in that emotional truth. Because no matter how close she came to the crown, she could never replace the woman who came before her. In the end, Camilla's story is not one of sudden collapse. It is one of gradual fading, a life built over decades, quietly shifting out of focus, not erased, but no longer central. Because the monarchy does not stand still, it evolves. And when it does, it chooses who remains in the spotlight and who becomes part of the past. So now the question is yours. Do you think this is justice, a natural shift of power, and a restoration of legacy? Or is it too cold, too calculated, too harsh for a woman who stood beside the crown for so many years? Drop your thoughts below, because this is a debate the world is still divided on. And if you think this changes everything, wait until you see the secret decisions William is expected to make in his first 30 days as king. Click the next video on your screen now, because what happens next may be even more shocking.